Hello Zimbabwe and welcome to the program Economic Forum, where this week we are focusing on one sector that has largely been underdeveloped and underrated. We are talking about the creative industries. Latest results coming from research, according to the Zimbabwe Statistics Agency, ZimStat, has shown that 6% of contribution to the GDP has been coming from the creative industries. But what is the creative industry and how can we, as a mainstream economy, get to include this viable industry? With me in the program is Mr. Chifunyise. He is a renowned arts and culture expert. He is also a UNESCO recognized expert. He's also a member that is playing the role of popularizing what is known as the Zimbabwe Chamber for Cultural Industries. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity.
If you can tell us about the Zimbabwe Chamber for Creative Industries, what is it about?
The chamber was created 3 years ago mainly by creators from the performing and visual arts. Performing and visual arts would mean musicians, theater, dancers. Visual artists would mean the sculptors and others, who felt that the creative economy, which is an economy created by creativity coming from cultural industries and creative industries, cannot be viable if there is no common platform to strategize on how to grow the creative economy, how to ensure that the creators understand the challenges they face and how they can get those challenges addressed by those who have the possibility of addressing them, the state, the local authorities, and even local communities. How the creators can be capacitated to develop more cultural products that can be competitive globally, how the cultural creators can also be able to create an environment where they help each other to acquire digital technology or the modern technology so that they can compete with cultural products and services that are also produced elsewhere. So the Chamber was created as an organization, as a platform to get everyone who is in the cultural and creative industries to find a common voice that would deal with the issues that affect culture and creative industries, which impact greatly on the viability of the creative economy of the country.
Some of our viewers are actually hearing the word creative economy for the very first time. Who creates what we call a creative economy?
Creative economy is the economy that comes from the minds and hands of individuals. And these minds and hands are normally what we call artists. Creators normally are artists. So you get a musician who writes a song, who thinks of a song in his mind and sings the song. And then you get a recording company, which is also part of the creative economy value chain, records that song and that song is now played on a radio station or is played on a television. That television, by playing that record, is now part of the creative industry. Because without that music, without those videos and films, the television stations would not survive. The radio stations would not survive. So the radio stations are channels and tools of making the creativity consumed. They are part of the value chain and they are critical players. So they also create the economy. If they don't show the music that is being produced, the musicians that are being produced in the country, very few people would consume the local music. If you're not playing local music and you're playing foreign music, people will want to buy the foreign music and access music rather than you. So the channels of creating is not just you thinking of the idea or you writing the song and playing the guitar or recording an album. The whole process is also part of creating, because without these other people who distribute it, who make it others consume the song and who see the video, the creation process is incomplete and the economy is not adequately achieved. So we talk of dancers, we talk of visual artists, craftspeople, designers who design costumes, who design our wear, the people who advertise, who use voices and graphics and music and dance to advertise products, to sell the products, to enable people to see the products that are being produced by other sectors, by agriculture, by other factories, but using the performing arts. That activity is a creativity that comes from an artist who enables the people to then see the products which they can consume, or to select products which they want to consume. So the advertisers are critical. We are talking of people who create plays which are done on stage, which are then performed on radio or performed on television. These are creators. But the people who enable them to have that play in a video format, or who enable that play to be consumed by providing a facility like a hall as a promoter, they are also creators. So music promoters, theater promoters are part of the creative industries. Then you have publishers, people who publish books, who publish magazines. They are part of the creative economy, because writers are the first creators. The writers who write stories, the writers who write books, who write dramas and so forth, their material is then put into book formats and is then consumed in schools and consumed across. They are also creators. So if you look at all those put together, they constitute a creative force which ultimately creates the economy. And that economy is consumed internally and externally. There are so many people who consume Zimbabwean products when we send our performing arts groups abroad. But sometimes people in this country don't realize that the musicians are exporting a lot of Zimbabwean products. They add value to our cultural heritage and take it abroad and come back with foreign currency, whether in form of musical instruments or they come with the cash itself. They are just like the diasporans. They come back, they go out 3 weeks' time, they are back with the money and they use the money. They have created income, which is now used.
Which is the worrying part, because from the way you are saying it, the ecosystem that has been created by the creative industry, would it justify the 6% contribution that has been attributed now officially by Zimstat?
Well, the problem is that Zimstat might be looking at the official structures that can give you data. But a lot of structures in the cultural and creative industries, you can't provide the data because they are too informal. If you take potters, women who make pottery, and you see a lot of people going to South Africa with Zimbabwean pots for decorations, for various things. There are some hotels in South Africa where you find Zimbabwean pots are used for water, for actual drinking. And you ask yourself, okay, this woman who sold this, was she captured by Zimstats? Did they, even people at the border, quantify how much was being exported as baskets, as embroidery, tie and dye, batiks, painting, sculpture, stone sculpture, wood sculpture, metal sculpture, which we see all being taken. If you go to Roadport, you're going to see people taking furniture that is woven together from reeds by our craftspeople, being taken to South Africa or outside the country. All these statistics sometimes are not captured. So sometimes when we look at these figures to say the contribution of culture and creative industry is 6%, sometimes it's because we don't have the instruments to really measure the consumption. If people come to Haifa, how many thousands come to Haifa to consume the music and dance in Haifa, the cultural exposure in Haifa? Who benefits? What income is generated there? All these things, if they are not properly captured, you are going to have figures that are not really representing the true impact of cultural industries in our economy.
Does the true impact of culture hit the double-digit mark? Let's talk about it in the second segment. Welcome back. This is Economic Forum, where we are focusing on the creative industry, which subsequently makes up the creative economy. And with me is Mr. Stephen Chifunyise. He is a renowned expert on arts and culture. He's also a member of the Zimbabwe Chamber of Creative Industries. Before you went to the break, you were articulating the different facets that make up the creative economy. But one of the biggest issues, which a lot of critics have alluded to, is the education system, which for the past 38 years or so, Zimbabwe has been faced, which does not recognize the impact of the creative industry.
Yes, I think this became a result of our misunderstanding what education is. We thought I was a permanent secretary, and one of my challenges was that I was an artist. I came into being a permanent secretary who was a writer, was a playwright, was a dancer, a storyteller. And when I was telling my colleagues that during the weekend I was teaching traditional dance and telling stories to children in Chipawa, they could not understand how an educated person like me lowers himself down to teach traditional dance, mandem, chongoy, and so forth. Now, the understanding they had was to isolate your knowledge to compartments, to think your writing of notes and you being a clerk and being a manager in office was best employment. And all these other people who then create what we consume, the music and dance we consume, the films we see, you don't create room in the education system for those people to be produced. It means your education system has sidelined creativity, has sidelined your culture, has sidelined the importance of cultural industries and creative industries. Where are you going to get the products? They will come from somebody else who has been trained at university to produce those things. And that's where our challenge was. So we were lucky that in the 1998 Presidential Commission, artists went and made their presentation to the commission about sports and culture being included in the education system. And we were lucky that commissioners who were there and under the chairmanship of Professor Nzira Masanga, we very appreciative of the fact that the arts are a critical part of human growth, human skill, human talent, and must be brought into the education system. But it took until 2016 to have a minister who was able to take that report of the presidential report on education and training into practice and getting the arts and culture syllabus, either as cultural heritage or visual arts and performing arts, as well as sports, into the education system. But our ability to make use of that curriculum depends on the existence of teachers. Where are the teachers? The teachers are not coming out of the colleges because the colleges didn't have the structures for their training. The teachers are actually in the community. The artists, the custodians of the knowledge and skills are your teachers. That's how all the Mbira players have not gone to school. They have learned from a custodian or somebody practitioner. Those are the ones that we are saying the new education system, if it can create good cultural industries or good creators, it must embrace all the community artists and make sure that they are available to schools at preschool level or ECD level up to the university so that they can demonstrate the skills and the teachers could then theorize on the importance of the arts. And that way we will have made sense of the Presidential Commission on Education and Training's findings, which was accepted by Cabinet in 1999.
Which then makes a complete cycle of the whole creative value chain. But then who consumes these products?
The consumption is a very interesting sector because it has 5 dimensions. The first dimension is that the entire community is a consumer. If you are a person, you want to hear music, you want to see dances, you want to see films, you want to go and dance, you want to go and recreate. That is consumption, very basic consumption. Then you have the people who consume products that are produced, the films, the music, records, the CDs, and those who go and buy films or watch television. Those are buying cultural products. They are consumers across the board. Then you have those who actually benefit from marketing the same products and make money. They are consumers, but they are also reselling those elements and making money out of it. And their economy is marketing that. So they are also consumers. Then you have the people whom we consider as major consumers are the people who learn from, who acquire the skills to be able to be creators as well. You know, if Ja Preza did not assist a number of musicians to know how to handle the way he's handling the music, in his recording studio didn't help him, or Oliver Mtukuzini did that, or Thomas Magumo didn't, there would be very few musicians around us. So the consumers are also, even the creators are consuming cultural products being produced by the other people and become producers as well. They are consuming first. You must appreciate Mira music first before you can learn to produce it and to do it.
So when this value is created, how then do we monetize it? Should it be left to the creators alone to do so?
That has been the mistake in our country in terms of policies. Idea of thinking that the role of monetizing our cultural products is the responsibility of creators. It is not. It's the responsibility of everybody, because these cultural products are assets, are like our mines, are like our diamonds, our platinum, our forests, our agriculture. These cultural products are heritage assets. So who should monetize the heritage? The country should monetize the heritage. If we are not having trade fairs where Zimbabwean cultural products are part and parcel of what is being exported or taken out for trade fairs abroad, then we are missing the link. We are not monetizing our cultural heritage. America has monetized its cultural heritage. It has done so wonderfully, even heritage where they were actually depicting the elimination of resistance from indigenous people with those Western films, and they marketed them globally. But we are saying we have a heritage of creators, heritage handed over from generations. We have physical places that are heritage sites that can be monetized. Then we have social values and oral traditions that can be monetized. And we have the story of liberation, which can be monetized through films.
Join us in the third and final segment as we pose the question around the infrastructure as we look at the ease of doing business in the creative economy. Join us then. Welcome back. This is the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where we are focusing on the creative economy. And my guest this week is Mr. Stephen Chifunyise, who is an arts and culture expert as well as a member of the Zimbabwe Chamber for Creative Industries. Now, you did speak about the education system, but let's talk about the ease of doing business. Well, let's start with infrastructure. I know historically mines, mining towns, and certain parts of our suburbia, we always used to have infrastructure that supported recreation. What has happened over the years?
Over the years, during the colonial days, any community that was built, there was a need to create infrastructure for entertainment, for the young people to learn how to create, to learn how to play sports, and to learn how to create clubs that can become commercially viable. And those community halls were critically built for that purpose. But it was also centers for people to consume cultural products, to consume. Now, if you look at what has happened since the early 90s, we see a lot of infrastructure for people to consume culture in town center. The communities have all been left with no audiences. There was Africa Day event in Jube Township where the community decided to have, as part of Africa Day this year, to have the artists create activities around the communities as if in the olden days, so that people can consume the music and dance in their local community, not to get into combis to go to town, to go to Harare Gardens or to Hartsfield Garden in Bulawayo to see what they should see in the community. So that infrastructure was turned into other uses, which is unfortunate. It should be brought back into that use. And if the Ministry of Youth, Arts, Sports and Culture can play a role, its role is to ensure that all this infrastructure provided by the mines, provided by local authorities, provided by the churches and by corporations can remain being utilized for creating cultural products, for the consumption of cultural products, and for social cohesion of the community when they consume culture in their own community rather than walking out to town center. This is part and parcel of making the infrastructure create an environment for ease of doing business. If I have to struggle to get a space to have a show in Harare Gardens and pay so much, that's not ease of doing business. And yet in my community, I might not pay that much. But also, the next thing that must be done is to make sure that if I'm going to perform in that community, my fees for you to come and consume are commensurate with the community itself saying this is our facility, so that they can pay $1 or $2 depending on the economic situation. So that makes it easy for me to charge less and my promoter also to be able to make some money. That becomes the easy of doing business.
You speak of economic challenges, and Zimbabwe has always talked about the economic challenges bedeviling the nation. But what is your view when we look at the creative industry? Is it bad times? Because there's always that link between economic prosperity and consumption.
Well, you'll be surprised. Creative industries actually create more resources for the creators in times when people are having shortage of money. When there is an economic crisis, you should see people hunting for leisure to generate better feelings and to run away from tension and all the problems. And in our situation, what we have not done is to capitalize that valve, self-valve, where people are actually using the little bit of money they have to try and generate a better atmosphere, feeling of it's all good, I can make it tomorrow, I can still make it next year as Zimbabwe, because I have all these facilities around me. So economic benefits come from making use of every facility available which has got cultural products. And that becomes the policy that you need as a government. What policy do you put in place to create an environment where everybody recognizes, you are creating something, I will need to buy it. I can't just get it free. Even if you are a political party, you must pay for the artists that are coming to perform there. They are coming with a political message, obviously, but they are also enabling the people who are coming to your rally have a good time and a feeling. The ability to monetize them, making use of this infrastructure which you have created.
Which also has become one of the issues around the creators, who the belief now is that they're evading tax, they are not compliant because they are taking advantage of this more or less unstructured industry. People getting away with a lot of money. What would your comment be?
My view and that of many creators is that tax systems are created by the state and local authorities. And it's not me, the creator, who should create a tax system. If you fail to create a tax system that can benefit from the informal sector in your country, it's your problem as the creator of system.
But there's been a call that we need to move away from the informal sector and formalize. Are there any plans, probably coming from interested groups like the Zimbabwe Chamber of Creative Industries, to formalize this seemingly informal sector?
Why would we then bring experts from India who are showing us how the informal sector, small, medium enterprises that are not so formalized, becoming the brain of the economy? Because when you're looking at economy, employment creation, if you are creating employment, you're adding to the economy. If you are generating income for your family and others, you are adding to the national economy. If people are coming to get in a combi to come and see my show or all of them to go to the show, they are paying to come and see a cultural product, so they are already paying a tax on my behalf. Who creates the activity? They are going to have sales tax from the drinks and the food they are going to consume. If I didn't have that show, would the guys have sales tax generated to the state? There would not be people who are consuming those things. So when you look at that, you must look at the comprehensive benefits that come from creators around you, rather than looking at the formalized, bookish approach to income generating and employment creation. If you look at it now, the majority of youngsters who are leaving universities, they find their employment where? In the creative industries. Why? Because their talent and the environment itself allows them to generate. Either they are digital artists, they are graphic artists, they are working on software, they are developing music. The recording studios that you find in Mbare and Highfields are generated by youngsters who never went to university. But because there was a statutory instrument that allowed them to bring in equipment for recording, enables them to become factories of producing cultural products. So factories are all over. Many factories.
So little time, but so many issues to talk about. But thank you so much for coming through to Economic Forum. There you've had for yourself the creative industry, very viable. As we say, Zimbabwe is open for business. But of course, what are the roles of the various stakeholders from government to communities, local authorities, as well as the experts themselves in this particular industry? Remember, do send us your charts as well as your comments and views on, of course, the numbers that are appearing on your screen. We've come to the end. My name is Tawanda Gudlanga. Join us again next week as we bring you more issues here on Economic Forum.